Good afternoon, Chuck Storrow, Leonine Public Affairs on behalf of AT&T. If you had asked me a month ago if I'd ever heard of market-based sourcing, I would have said no. And I still don't know a lot about it, but as you heard, the switch from cost of performance to market-based sourcing will fall on telecom as one of the losers in this discussion. And I'd like to just, first of all, in AT&T's case, they have 75 employees in the state. They have 24 stores. Not all of them are company-owned, some of them are franchise. And they invest about $20 to $25 million in infrastructure in the state every year. And that's different than, say, Expedia, which is out of state and has an internet platform that Vermonters access. As far as I know, Expedia hasn't put a dime into anything here in the state. And so given the fact that there's a legitimate hue and cry about the need for increased connectivity and cell phone coverage in the state, the notion of raising the corporate income tax liability of a company like AT&T is just, it's taking away money that could otherwise be used for investing in the network. And I'm not saying that every dollar actually is going to pay the state of Vermont is going to be $1 less than what they invest in Vermont, but over time, as a broad proposition, that's going to be the effect. And given the fact that they do make considerable investment in infrastructure in Vermont, it's distinguished from out-of-state service companies who don't do anything in Vermont other than sell. So we would respectfully urge that if there's going to be a switch to market-based sourcing, that telecom be carved out from that switch.
Okay, duly noted. All right, committee, we must get out bottle bill and broadband.
That's the weatherization slide.
Weatherization.
Yes, yes.
So we're gonna start working our way through it. We've got the weatherization bill first, because I think we're pretty close on that.
Were you working on 63?
We're working, we just started on 63.
I have an update, some of the language to reflect the work conversation.
Okay, paid family leave, I don't need health insurance, those.
Can I just post that?
Yeah, stuff, I am looking for my folder. Must be this
Those
one,
are off.
because I don't have a broad. All right, this is,
This is a new amendment.
We might be immune.
Well, we might
suggested
be.
amendments.
We've been immune in the
The
past.
thing is, ideally, some of this.
Okay, I've got suggested amendments, who put this together?
This is me.
You.
I'm not sure why
All
my
right.
name's on here, but, and so this is
Yep,
pretty similar to what we looked at the other day.
yep.
If you want me to, oh, it's kindly been highlighted, some of the changes, so, in yellow. So, in the first instance, it just makes it clear up to $2,250,000 was this is the surplus sufficiency Vermont money.
Okay, let's start with the bill. Have I got the draft? Luke's here. Okay, let's start going section by section. And we can plow through it and see. This is miscellaneous. That's because that is miscellaneous. All right. See where we come in agreeing or not agreeing. And I am looking miscellaneous tax provisions. Okay. I think we're getting to it. Yes, all right. So I've got draft 2.1, I think was the one we're working off of. And we've got yours, the
Yeah,
first.
so if you want, I can weave mine into our discussion section. by
Yeah,
section.
I think that would be most helpful. Then
Great.
I can do my wonderful checking off green or putting up red flags, and we know where we are. I know I have, and I've made clear, some issues with the first section, or maybe it's the first couple of sections. I just don't know why we have to make it mandatory that the realtors hand out information that they already have an agreement with Efficiency Vermont, and they're handing out voluntarily. To me, it's kind of like a slap in the face to say, well, we don't trust you and we're gonna require you to. I have an issue. I have an issue with labeling. Now, if you want to say I can voluntarily, there is the thing that you list that this is a 5-star energy home. You list any of the weatherization, insulation, anything. The homeowner disclosure is not mandatory in Vermont.
So, Madam Chair, are you looking
But
to
it's there.
have some of these sections struck, or do you have
I think that the mandatory part about passing things out to me is, they're doing it. We checked that out 2 years in a row, and the information is getting out. If all they're doing is studying possible ways to label,
Right, the study group itself.
they can
yeah.
study whatever they want.
So where's that language on
That's
the
what I'm
mandatory?
missing. And we need to add a realtor with experience in commercial real estate to the multi-unit group. Here it is. It's section 3. Disclosure of energy information materials. It's gonna have them work up another set of materials to be disclosed. There's already a set come out from Efficiency Vermont, which is being disclosed. But this is the least of the issues in this.
well, that's the, I must admit that I know Senator Bray's affection for these sections, and
Said this is the
I'm not
third time
unsympathetic.
they've done it.
but given where we are in session, and that the House hasn't seen any of that, and that the working groups exist, that's what
Yeah.
if we were to strike the first 5 sections, Luke, is it right in thinking that the working groups actually still exist,
Yeah.
and that they
Want to take the chair?
Yeah, please.
could do some of this?
Right.
Luke Marlin, the Legislative Counsel. I'm sorry, I don't really know the answer to that. There was some testimony at a committee. There are working groups in statute, that's why the names have
Yeah.
changed. Whether they're really operating or functioning, I don't know the answer to that. So I don't know if the other committee could answer that question for me.
I mean, the statute talked about it, the present group shall be this new
Shall
group.
continue.
Shall continue, so I assume there's something there somewhere. I don't know.
So I feel bad, because this is sort of an imperfect solution, but I kind of think we should take out the first 5 sections.
I mean, I'm gonna, I respect where we're all at in the last week. I'm gonna just vote against that, having
Yeah,
represented.
you're on the,
committee.
yeah, you're on the.
I also respect the timing and where we're at.
Will it include your support for the overall effort?
No, it would not preclude my support for the overall effort.
Can
You'll
we
still get my vote on the final.
Thumbs up, thumbs down, just to
What are you
move forward.
proposing to
We
strike?
strike all, the first 5 sections, which is
Because we know the House
the
hasn't.
labeling.
The House hasn't
We
seen
looked
it.
at it, there's no language there.
We've rejected it twice.
For consistency purposes, I think.
And we believe that these working groups do exist.
They do
It's
exist.
not clear that they're existing or meeting or working, but
That's a good answer, Mark.
Yeah, that's what I did. What, thumbs up, thumbs down.
I like
What are we
that.
gonna do?
I
Okay,
think we all,
Thumbs up,
thumbs up.
thumbs down.
thumbs up to strike.
All right. I get to make the markers Royle
Whatever you like. There you go.
So now we're on section 6.
Now we're in
Section
section
six.
6.
Okay.
I'd like to strike the section.
This is a section that is addressed a little bit in my amendment. If you've got draft 8, that amendment, which Sarah just gave us.
Yeah,
We did talk about this. It's not wildly different from what the committee did. It does specify that those surplus funds we're using up to $2.25 million.
all right.
The instructions, that as I understand it from some of our friends across the hall, was there's about 4 million and we'd like to have some of it available for next year. And so actually that's the only change from the last time we looked at this.
Okay. I'm on section 6.
And
Notwithstanding.
that's on the top of page 2 of my
Oh,
amendment.
it's on top.
So how much does that leave us in our prison, the remainder?
About 1.75. Efficiency Vermont says about $4 million
Yeah.
in surplus. Unused. Yeah, but they got through efficiency, not to be confused with their mission.
All right.
And so remind me what we're doing here exactly then?
We're spending, we're giving them permission to spend that on moderate
Yeah,
income weatherization. So on page 7, on line 17 of the first page, including those at income levels of 80 to 140% of the area median income. So this is where the Senate is trying to say, we want to invest more in weatherization, but we, unlike our counterparts, are trying to figure out how to get money into not just low income weatherization. And so that's what
Okay,
this.
but basically what this is doing is, if I'm reading this correctly, the bill on page 13 of the bill, which is the top, is number 1, the bill says any balance, and you're
Yes.
limiting it to 2,250,000 because there's about 4 there and we want to keep some for next year.
Yeah, and the construct here is that we're kind of in a transition as we think more globally about our efficiency work. And so this is to get us, this is to avoid the 2-cent fuel tax increase, recognizing we're in a transition, not spend all of it this year.
any downside? I mean,
You know, the only downside of this is that we're not spending all 4 of it, in my mind.
But we'll have money
but we will,
next year.
yeah,
Yeah.
to continue to spend it.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And there's always the chance you dump so much money in, you won't have
Yeah.
the workforce.
capacity to do it.
to get it
Yeah,
done.
yes, and Efficiency Vermont already does some of this work through their Ford capacity and Recchia, right, so we're
Yep,
sweeping that.
okay.
That
So
sounds,
this
I'm
is
okay,
okay?
I'm okay with that.
Yep.
It'll increase homeowner contribution to
Absolutely.
each grant and then thereby go a bit farther.
Yes.
These grants that will be given, are these in effect partial grants for
Yes.
doing work as opposed to essentially buying the work?
Yes.
Absolutely, it is 50%, I believe.
Yeah, Abby testified to
yeah.
that this morning.
The average incentive, Abby White Efficiency Vermont, is $1,200 per project, and the projects range, from $5,000 to $10,000. So we would be looking to increase that. We're gonna be increasing it anyway to have more income sensitivity applied, so that if you qualify based on income, you could receive up to $3,000. So this helps us do that.
But, so, in the event you get up to 3,000, you're still looking at maybe a quarter actually of the project cost.
Potentially.
Whereas the low-income program, as I understand it, is 100%.
Right.
So you get way, if your goal is just weatherized homes, you're getting way more homes per dollar.
Right.
So, this thing wasn't in here, how much of this 2.250 could you spend for this purpose right now?
What? No,
None.
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 Yeah.
Because none of the surplus is from funds that you
Right.
could use for this
Right.
purpose?
Correct.
Right, the funds are from the electric efficiency fund
Okay.
savings, so we're not able to deploy any of those money.
We're allowing cross-pollination for 1 year.
For our transition, yep.
Okay,
Again, I'm a thumbs
Is
up.
that
Yeah,
okay?
I'm comfortable
All
with
right.
this, and
that one's all
Yeah,
right?
I
yeah.
still have just a bit of discomfort about subsidizing people who are above the median income with taxpayer money. Particularly where what your subsidy is doing is you're creating a benefit where they are saving money.
Yep.
I'd be much more comfortable if you had a program in which you had either low-income loans or whether you had some means to advance the money in order to get the weatherization done, but require a payback out of the savings. If we're talking about the poor, I understand low income, I understand that, but I'm having great difficulty saying you're taking average people or you're taking people with a deep and above average income and you're subsidizing them, and I have a problem with that.
Point, it's a fair point. There are loan programs. There's not been a great take-up of them, as I understand it. These programs create jobs. They are part of our energy efficiency and our climate goals. So, you know, can't vehemently disagree with what you're saying, but there's more than one thing going on.
And I would just say, median family income in Vermont, I think this is accurate, is about 75,000. So if you're talking about a couple, husband, wife, partner, whatever, and they've got a couple kids, that's not a lot of money.
No, it's not.
That's just,
And I think
to me,
that's
that's
why, and people, I think right now,
tough.
in this economy, with the buying power,
This
have
is, you
been
know,
very
our-
hesitant to take out loans,
And it's our number 2 driver of climate emissions.
Yeah,
which is the goal
Greenhouse gas
of
emissions.
what we're doing.
okay.
Okay, section 7, you got.
Yeah, that's also addressed, although not in a major way. So this is the proceeding where we're asking the PUC to say, you know, what does our efficiency universe look like? And should we be basically putting more of it into building efficiency? So really small things on page 3 of the amendment. The language that came from Senate Natural says, figure out whether small I help achieve the state goals set forth. And I was interested in doing a little more and saying accelerate progress toward the state goals. It's sort of, it's not a major change,
Right.
but something.
Slow the rate with which we fall behind.
Yes, yeah, let's accelerate.
yeah.
So there you see that just in those 2 lines. And then it's all the same until, let's see.
Page 5B, line 17.
Yeah, 5B. Now, but this does not have, hold on a second. Yeah, well, we can talk about this. So on the bottom of page 5, it was funny, we were talking this morning and I was confused, right? I was saying BED and folks are saying, don't mess with our order. At the same time, efficiency Vermont, we want to say, you know, you can learn as we're doing this study and maybe impact their performance review. And I was trying to figure that out. I learned something that really made this clear. Because I was saying, you can't mess with their order, that's the contract. But it turns out that's an important misnomer. An order is like a charter. Order says, efficiency Vermont, you may exist and you may do efficiency work. Or BED, you are accepted as an electric utility. And then within that, and those go for 11 years. Within that, there is this review that is the contract, that is a 3-year revolving analysis or something like that. So here we're saying, we're not messing with your order, we're not messing with your right to exist. But we're by, and then Luke, we were, oh yeah, and then on page 6, you'll see that we are calling out that in their preliminary report to us, the PUC would indicate whether this would have any influence on the scope and focus of Efficiency Vermont's demand resources plan proceeding. Remember, there's a timeline thing here. Next fall of 2020, Efficiency Vermont's demand resources plan will be adopted. That's the contract. That says in the next 3 years you're doing X. So we're saying the order is whole. You guys don't have to worry. No one's going to say you cannot exist. But we may say, and I'm looking for Greg to give me some facial expression, but we could say, or not too many.
I'm waiting, I'm gonna give Greg a shot at this.
But we could say, hey, we'd like to alter the focus of your contract over the next 3 years and get you to also do this or whatever. So we're and it's not just BED, by the way. Warren reminds me, it's Vermont Gas, and who else is involved in that? There's I think also maybe even used to be IBM was their own efficiency utility. I don't know if they qualify.
They have their own trunk
We're
lines,
not
don't they?
blowing up the structure, but we are saying, do we need to learn and alter how we're using our partners? And I think that's the cleanest way of saying it, and I believe that's accurate. And it's important to say that, of course, the PUC has broad authority on all of this stuff, so we're just trying to give them some of our intent here.
So, a couple things that add to that is, remember that this language is asking the PUC to come back to you and make recommendations. So they cannot do anything, my legal opinion would be, without legislation. So if they want to establish an all fuels efficiency utility or utilities and make that recommendation, it can be done without legislation. My position would be if they want to extend or change substantially the definition of what constitutes efficiency. The second prong is supposed to look at. They need to come back to you. And maybe PUC disagrees about that, but that would be my legal interpretation.
Okay.
So it seems to me this new language that Senator Pearson has highlighted on page 5, on the one hand could be read as saying that the proceeding shall not alter the, what is a appointment. That's accurate because they can't alter anything. All they can do is make recommendations.
Okay.
But whether you, in legislation, would consider that or do that, that's a policy call. And there might be legal ramifications to doing that, that's true. But that's one of the issues you're currently, you don't have to, but you're currently asking PUC to give you a recommendation as to. For example, on page 3, in capital B, on line 17, they intentionally, and of course you could modify this, ask them to come back, you sort of put the whole menu in front. And you ask them to come back, well, should it be one or should it be more than one? Should it be an existing or should it be new? So that's quite broad. And you certainly don't have to follow that approach. You could limit it and say only look at existing EUs and see how their mission might change. So there's a little bit of interplay here. It's session law, giving them flexibility, but if you're saying we will not ask PUC to consider whether the orders of appointment should be changed, that seems to conflict a little bit with that broad menu you gave in the prior page.
Okay.
And Madam Chair, I'll just say my motivation here is largely to, I think both of these sections don't actually change anything, but given where we are with a week to go, it's an attempt to have other people that might be, watching this closely be able to relax. So that seems maybe like a good strategy.
So may I ask, in our committee, Burlington Electric was
Yes.
was very anxious, very concerned. This would in a way allow Burlington Electric to do what? To stay out of this process, or what would it allow? Or not?
Yeah, Greg, have you had enough time to digest any of this?
Yes.
Would you like to speak?
So that question first, it wouldn't change their order of appointments.
Okay.
So
And that's
wouldn't-
naming them an
and-
efficiency utility.
Exactly, and Luke's exactly right, we couldn't do that with further legislation anyway, so this was basically
Contract.
belt and suspenders kind of language,
Mhm.
may give them some comfort.
Got it.
It won't allow them to be out of the proceeding, but we're not gonna change the order of appointment, and that's what they're looking for, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay,
As far as the other language
So
goes,
Springer's coming.
okay, now we're getting the bad news.
Okay.
it's not bad news. So you have an order of appointment that says you are an EDU.
Yeah.
There's a thing called a demand resource plan. We do that in 3-year cycles. So that's basic, and we're doing that now for UBT. That's basically setting their budget on a looking forward basis for 3 years. So any findings in a preliminary report that have to do with setting up an all fuels utility will have nothing to do with that proceeding, because that's based on existing statutory directives.
Okay.
Does that make sense? So any findings in there are not, they are not, I can tell the answer right now, none of those findings will influence the setting up of an all fuels, or will influence the DRP, the demand resource plan, because that's based on law today.
Okay,
You know
can't
what
be
I'm
on what
saying?
we might do in 2 years.
Right, so,
Concept of efficiency.
no, because again, it's all based on the existing statutory directives, the DRP.
Okay.
So any findings we come up with in our preliminary report on the all fuels utility really have nothing to do with that. That's a separate proceeding. And
If
and
we-
maybe in the future, it will influence
Okay,
that.
if we decide next year,
Exactly.
that would influence
The
2
next
years, the
proceeding.
next proceeding, which at
Right.
that point would be almost 2 years out. or
Well, you
a
can
little
even,
le-
you
more
can
than
even
2.
decide to say, well, now you gotta change that plan.
Okay,
You-
so we could alter course
Yeah.
midstream, I'm sure they wouldn't like it.
They wouldn't, that might not be a good idea,
Yeah.
but it's something you could
Okay.
do. And,
What if, is there ever a time where, so the demand resources plan would be less than 3 years? I mean, we're trying to navigate the timeline,
Right.
and there is a presumption that these are willing partners here, that folks are interested in this shift, and if at all possible, would like to avoid being locked in for 4 more years. So, I mean, maybe we don't have to address it here, and we would just look at it in session next year.
Right.
But the idea, or we could call that out and say, you know, in January, tell us if there's potential that we'd like to execute by the fall, and what he needs. I mean, I think that was baked in here anyway, but
Remember that in that proceeding, you're asking PUC to do 3 things. The one is, first is all fuels. Second is regardless of recommendations, that's all fuels, expanding the concept of efficiency. And third, how do you pay for it? So I don't know if this language was directed at all fuels, but the second separate issue of do you, regardless of all fuels, expand the concept of efficiency to include those other factors or other approaches. So maybe your answer would be the same, but that's how I envision that language.
Right. I just think it's in the wrong spot.
Okay.
That's all I'm saying. Those two things don't go together, where you have that language. It doesn't.
We need to find, I mean, if we strike this, does it,
probably not. It was
Doesn't-
just an attempt to call it out.
Yeah, you're gonna get our same recommendations on the all fuels.
they may come back and say, we can't do all fuels.
Sure.
It could happen, yeah.
Yeah,
And then that clearly wouldn't have a
yeah.
I don't think this changes anything, I think it is just a highlight.
Yeah, I don't think it'll change anything, I just don't think you'll get anything out of it, and I don't want you to
To
be
do anything.
saying, well, where's our findings?
It's
And
not gonna, right.
Does it do any harm?
it's confusing,
That's
but.
hard.
But that's not what's harmful.
Yeah.
Almost the last time we were confused.
Well, I'm not gonna fall hard on this one at all.
I'm comfortable, I personally am comfortable with this.
I don't know.
But
I looked at the Burlington folks and others.
This isn't the Burlington folks, we took
Well,
care
I
of
think
them.
they like it, that's for sure.
No, they like the
Like it.
first one.
No,
Oh, I'm sorry.
that's the first one.
That's the first one.
So I don't know, you guys tell me,
I mean,
I don't think it's confusing, it may not bear fruit. but-
well, to say the findings of record shall, they're 21 through 23 demand resource
Right.
Plan, that's their
plan.
contract.
But
that they're
that's the
working
one that's being negotiated this fall before we get any,
No, it ends up, no, it ends, as I understand it, in the fall of 2020.
yes, this coming
This-
fall.
No,
A
it's
year from
19.
A year from now.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that correct? Abby,
That
that,
finishes a year. It
From the
finishes-
fall.
Yeah, it
It's 15
finishes in
months.
the fall of 2020.
okay, so
This bill
it does
does
have
Then
time.
it gets ordered
Counteract
to begin in
or
January.
anything beyond that.
Okay, so this doesn't kind of stop in mid-place, all right,
So,
okay.
So what is
Won't
the
hurt my
decision of
feelings.
the committee?
It's staying in. I got 1, 2, 3, Michael, Randy,
Is that a banana or a fumble?
it's in, okay, keep going.
So
But
my
I don't
understanding
wanna be here till 9 o'clock
Okay.
tonight, so.
Amen.
My understanding is that language on page 6 that's highlighted stays in?
Yes,
Yeah.
we just decided.
Carbon emissions,
Then
section
we're into
10.
beverage containers
Wait,
in the bill.
section 10.
Well,
We're into beverage containers?
yeah, then we go to section 8, which is, and 9.
What do you wanna do with beverage containers?
I don't think it's controversial.
All right,
It's a little 3-day thing that O'Grady was talking about.
yeah.
Oh, this is something you discussed this morning?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
Page
you-
right now?
I'm in the bill, and it's section 8, starts on page 18.
This is what natural resources
Great,
recommended.
all right.
Yes, right, you guys did, this is the deposit, a little tweak on how we run the deposits, not a big.
Yeah, okay, you're not playing with that.
No, I'm not touching that.
All right, you're adding.
Everybody, well, yeah, it's not.
You're on page 18.
All right. Well, he's adding something
Right.
at the end,
Yeah, so,
section 10, or X.
And
well,
section
the bill as it came over, sections 8, 9, and 10 all deal with
Fine.
the bottles, so I'm not messing with any of that.
Okay,
Then we have this carbon emissions reduction committee, which takes the place of the joint energy committee. We talked about that the other day, there's no change. And then there's our V-Light, well, so I don't know if you wanna do that one by one. The
okay,
joint
these are
carbon
the things
emissions
we're
reduction.
adding, all right,
Yes.
that's, all right. So you renamed that joint energy committee, all right. And home weatherization assistance fund.
Well,
Oh,
so let's
and
maybe
I
take it
asked
one
the
by
treasurer
one.
if she could get someone here this afternoon.
Can we just get sign off on the joint carbon
Is-
emissions reduction?
Is that
committee?
fine?
Anybody have a problem with
All
I don't have a
right,
problem with that.
okay,
that? Okay, lovely, thank you. And then it's the B-Light special.
yes.
Now, there was one question raised by the folks today, other than they don't love it, but on page 11 of the amendment, line 11, says, "The General Assembly strongly encourages." It used to say strongly urges, they said, could you make it encourages? And we said, how about strongly encourage? He asked us to take out strongly, I mean,
If
I'm not sure there's a
There's one
difference.
going to go to the mat for.
It's just polite.
So we will just encourage, is that what you're saying?
Yes, we will, I think they got the message,
that's
but they are an independent, we would not react kindly to that.
Please. So then, is everybody all right? That's page 11, line 11,
Yeah.
we take out strongly,
Yeah?
Yep.
and we will encourage them. should we say politely encourages?
No, just encourage. No
And then,
words.
so if we're okay with that, and then, the last section is a one-time appropriation, which, Senator Kitchell
Right.
told me
You
works.
discussed-
Yes.
We discussed that, and you'll see here,
That's in the budget.
Luke helped me just tie it into section 6. That's back on page 1 where Efficiency Vermont has a bit of money for moderate income, middle income organization. So we're just
Okay.
dumping it into that section effectively.
So
Okay.
is this 350,000, does this get targeted to any income group?
It
Applies
does to the middle.
same way as under section 6, which is based on the AMI.
80 to 140%?
Yes.
Yeah,
So I guess I'm just, it seems like we've heard a lot about different weatherization funding sources today. And I don't have any clue really as to what the entire pot that's going into weatherization is at this point. Does anybody know?
Yeah.
we basically have two,
The
Look,
house
there's-
plan,
there's-
the Senate plan.
No, I'm not talking about just the house that was set up. I'm
No,
talking
no.
about existing funding for weatherization.
right
So you-
now, go ahead.
Did you know that?
No,
Currently, fuel tax goes a low-income weatherization program, existing law. I think it's up to 60 or 80 AMI, but basically low income. Then this language in section 6 and the 350K additional appropriation will go to the AMI, given their 80 to 140%.
What about the relight?
Well, you can't tell them to do anything strong, you're encouraging.
But they just said they're putting $500,000.
Oh, they've said that you're gonna do that?
Well, they've,
Oh, so they have it.
That's their goal.
Yeah, they said this morning.
Theirs is a
Yes.
low income.
What about
they've
that?
already doing 50%, which is about 500,000, and their board has decided to do 20, at
That
least
here's the next
25%.
I'm asking
More,
what the solutions
75.
for weatherization.
Right, so I'm trying to answer your question. So the treasurer's $5 million availability using, I forget what the citation is, the loan program. I don't know how much of that has been spent or would be spent.
Right.
So I can't give you information about.
Can we keep working?
VLAT, I
We
had
can
known
keep
they
working.
committed to appropriate money.
And Senator Christian, you said this $350,000 was to keep up with the level that the House did in their bill?
correct.
And are we ahead of that or behind? Or even?
Well, I'll be frank and say that the V-light is a presumption. We don't really know where that lands. But if, as it's authorized here, up to 1.3 million, which was sort of all their money, if that came in, we would be about $200,000 ahead of the House on their spend. So, I don't know how you gain that one or and tally it.
But we're not taxing fuel on low income people.
And we're doing our level best to match the House in dollars. And in fact, and I'm trying to get JFO to help me, because if we're able to calculate the homes we can impact, we'll greatly exceed them because of this 50% dynamic or,
Right.
of our moderate program. So, but it's hard, Senator Rock, I don't know really how you measure it. It is our construct.
I guess the only concern I have is that all for it in terms of finding funding sources. When you start going to the general fund, you're competing with all other demands. And like we had $350,000 in our economic development, we took it out. So there's all this money going into weatherization, why do we put $350,000
Well,
more on?
I think
It
this is
It is
one-time
economic
money.
development as well, and.
And the
like I
pro
said,
temp happens to be here.
One time when.
Hi there.
Hi,
Does
is
the
the
committee want to strike all?
$350,000 in the budget a one-time money?
We believe we have, yes.
Okay.
Yes, that is not a base.
Luke, can you draft this
Sure.
up, a
Do you
strike
wanna
all? Yeah, I think that would be easiest.
Oh, did you want to strike all?
Yes.
Incorporate all those changes? Sure,
Yeah.
I can do that.
Okay, and then when you bring it back, I think we're gonna vote it out
When would you like to have it back?
ASAP.
It will take me a little bit of time.
Okay, yeah, no, we've got broadband to keep us here the rest of the
All right.
evening.
Thank you.
But I would like to go home before 8 o'clock.
Oh, yeah.
if at all possible.
Possible, definitely.
We can do.
We can do. All right, now we're going to broadband. That was the easy one. Senator, I hope you own stock in a paper company.
Thank you.
Okay, I think we're making progress. Next on to broadband.
Senator Cummings,
Yes,
Maria is on her way,
Maria, thank you.
and she has all of the.
Okay, on Friday, we didn't, the pro tem asked Maria, I think
Sensing
Luke
that.
had done for another bill, the decision points, and as we're going through broadband, he thought that would be helpful to us as we're going through this, so Maria has it.
Maria's been doing an awesome job.
She has,
Here she is.
and here she
The
is.
decision points, we're gonna let Maria take us through the decision points.
We're
It's
moving.
gonna be great.
Everybody's motivated to get out of here.
Maria, take the chair, we need you.
Okay.
We played. Boxing her out, we need her. Come on.
Okay.
All right, all right, let's do it.
Table.
Decision
Okay.
points, where are they?
I have.
All right.
Started a little complicated.
Sit down.
All right.
The neighbors will come and play.
All right, Maria. I told her we asked you to help us get through the decision points.
All right.
Decision points, here we
We
go.
have agreed on the findings, so I didn't have to quit.
Maria, you might post that.
I think so, but I confirm with the chair.
I have it.
I'm not too.
Yeah.
I don't do it.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, just more paper for me to get lost in. All right. Along with my file, my side glass, but we'll get it. Okay, all right.
Maria Royle with Legislative Counsel, so you have a document in front of you,
What?
decision points for Senate
That's,
Finance.
that's what we're working on.
And what we're gonna do, if this makes sense, is at the end of each section or cluster of sections, there are a couple of questions to help you focus on things still to be decided and if you're ready to make those decisions. So I think the findings, you've said numerous times you're
We're
okay on
good
that.
on the findings,
So no questions there. The next two sections, section 2 is the 0.5% rate increase to the universal charge, and section 3 is basically the spending of that, of the money's
Right.
rates, which is about $1.5 million in fiscal year 2020. So if you turn to page 5, at the end of those two sections, so that I guess the first question is, and all of the questions are bolded and italicized. So does the committee support the 0.5% increase to the rate of charge?
And we had that discussion on Friday, I believe. And I think Senator Peterson was the outlier, and I believe he seated. So I think we have, it
Where does this money goes to connectivity?
And so
goes to the connectivity fund, right? The
Yes,
first is the rate.
the first is rate, so then the second is how you allocate that money. And so the way the House proposed it, of that 1.5 million, this is in the second questionnaire on the bottom of page 5, up to 120,000 for a new person in the DPS, and that would be annually, up to that amount of money raised. Then of the remaining amount, that would all go into the connectivity fund. And under existing statute, the monies in that fund are allocated 45% goes to the high cost program, 55% of the monies in the fund go to the connectivity initiative. So what that means, just to give you an idea of the numbers, about for fiscal year 2020, about 620,000 would go to the high cost, and 760,000 would go to the connectivity initiative.
Okay, and these are the, in addition to the funds they already have. or is
Yes,
this
it-
total?
No, this is only the 0.5%
5%,
money.
right.
So any other money that trickles down, and my understanding is there's not a lot, I mean, it might not be any money.
No,
You can
it's-
confirm that, but for
It's
next
been what's
year,
left over.
there might not be any money.
Okay,
And I
so
also
this
just
would be-
wanted to note with respect to the connectivity initiative, you do have a separate appropriation, a one-time appropriation to the connectivity initiative in the amount of $205,000. That's in section 8, but I just wanted you to be able to think holistically about what would go into that.
And where did that money come from?
That's one-time, general fund appropriation. In the House, it was budget adjustment fiscal year 2019, but my understanding is Senate Appropriations has set aside 2020 general fund.
Okay, but it
dollars, and
is
they're
in,
holding
it
that,
is
yes.
in the,
Yes.
all right. So that money is accounted for
There's
in
no
the
language
budget.
whatsoever in the big bill, but that money, all of the appropriations in this bill
Bill
have
are-
been
are
taken into
covered.
consideration.
Okay.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
So, when I look at what we're gonna send in connectivity, I wanna know what VITA has additional, so I can see the priorities. So could we,
Well,
before we
all right,
pull
we'll
the
get-
trigger on this?
Yeah,
Sure.
oh,
we
yeah.
know where
Oh, yeah,
VITA
no, I think
increases?
VITA is aimed at a different group, but we can take a look. Okay, but the first question is the position.
Until I
That's
know
the new
what,
thing.
how much is going to VITA, I wanna
Well,
just,
nothing from this is going to VITA.
I know.
Okay,
I wanna know when we
All right,
finish
all
at the end,
okay.
whether we're putting more money to the connectivity, or we're putting the bulk of the money to.
Madam Chair, would you just grab that from his elbow, because it's going to,
You're
we're
gonna,
just,
you're
thank
gonna
you.
take off and fly.
This is the VITA fund money over here.
That's a reminder right over here.
Do you want to quickly review the
Just a quick
Yes.
number, that's going to be VITA.
Okay, let's get how much VITA's getting.
quick review of the appropriations. So before getting to VITA, one-time general fund transfer of $955,000. That's going to the Broadband Innovation Grant Program, 700,000 of that. The 205 I just mentioned to Connectivity Initiative, 50,000 to the DPS feasibility study. And there are two
Oh,
more.
that's the electric utility, okay.
There are two more appropriations, we'll get to VITA in a second. There's an additional $45,000 to the Think Vermont Innovation Grant Program. This is the one that the program we set up last year. And according to ACCD, there were 3 municipalities interested in getting grants to come up with broadband solutions, and they're waiting in the wings, hoping to get, that's my.
What does Think Vermont do?
It's a program it's meant to help small business growth generally.
Joan was in here, I believe.
Yeah,
talking
oh,
to
yeah,
us about-
yeah.
Ted
Yeah.
Brady may have been in here, I don't know if he's.
Yeah, I don't think it's talked this year.
What page are we on?
So I'm just doing the appropriations now to
Just
get
doing
you
it.
oriented on the
All
money,
right.
and I'm just reading from the side by side. And so all of the money provisions are bolded if you're looking at the.
Okay,
And so there's only one other appropriation, and that's for the loan program. And that's $540,000, and that's for loan loss reserves, for the VITA loan program.
So how much money do they have to loan?
So total, that $540,000 presumes, and this is all discretionary,
but this
they don't
is
have to lend
existing
anything.
VITA funding, right? We're not giving more, there's money going in to, as kind of a backup fund because they're presuming there will be some losses on these loans.
Yes,
But these are aimed at the startup
Give it
telecoms
side by side.
that
People seem to have.
can bond, but they're revenue bonds, so they need they need to get their lines up and customers paying revenue before they can go to the bond market. And this is that bridge loaning.
the interest,
Right.
and the payment of principal can be deferred for up to 2 years. So So that number, that $540,000 in loan loss reserves, that presumes that the authority is lending half of its total loan amount. The total loan amount is $10.8 million over the life of the program, and it's all contingent upon annual appropriations, if any.
In the life of the program is.
But the assumption is 5 million.
5.4 million. 10% of 5.4 million is $540,000. So if they did lend out 5.4 million, this is the loan loss reserves to cover any losses on
Okay.
that. There's no
So-
guarantee.
And they
that
have been strongly
And-
persuaded to make those loans. Or
Yes, that's
volunteered.
the governor, the DP, yes, that's everyone's position. So they're getting 5 million, and it sounds like, I haven't added it up, but they're getting somewhere around 2 to the connectivity fund in the other fund. They're getting, well, no, they aren't even getting 1.5 from us, but million.
No.
We're raising 1.5, and there's another appropriation or 2 in there, but
200, yep.
it's somewhat shy of 505.
I'm sorry, I'm pleased that the PETA monies
Good.
are the bulk of what's being proposed here. I'm personally reluctant to raise additional revenues in the form of taxes when we don't have a plan that is there to say what. But on the whole, it's a healthier balance.
Okay, can we go forward?
Yes,
now?
thank you very much.
Thank you. All right,
I have a question.
yes.
So, Marie, you said that when these go forward, that it's contingent upon appropriations in any given year? Why isn't Vita in a
As soon
position
as
to,
Luke gets whether
why isn't Vita in a position to
this one,
make the loans in their own board's discretion? Why do they need appropriations? They have plenty of money in the bank.
They do. They're concerned about the potential higher risk nature of these loans, so they asked to an increase of their loan loss reserves. They can go forward and make the loans, and that's gonna be their decision.
Okay.
Yes.
But the 540 for this year is to back up 5.4 million in loans. If they want
Right.
more than that, they gotta come in with another loan.
Unless they're all doing brilliantly well, and if they don't think they need to.
these
cover
are new
themselves.
enterprises, they really don't have a track record to say, on average, these, you know, some of these will make it, and some of these probably will not. And, yes,
Is it also correct to say that the additional monies being raised for connectivity are also subject to appropriations in a given year?
no, that's a
No.
tax. Oh, the additional money over and above the raising the rate, the
Then over and
connectivity
above
charge.
what's in here, these are all one-time appropriations, so over and above anything in here would be subject to
Right.
whatever you decide.
We would have to vote to lower the connectivity charge if we vote to raise it.
Or we could redirect it somewhere
Yes,
if
we
we so
could.
chose. Thank you. Okay.
Nothing is written
Thank you.
stone.
Thank you very much.
Okay. All right. We still haven't gotten to the position.
On those, do you wanna save the money appropriations for the end?
We thought you
or
had
do-
seated or been outvoted. We weren't sure which.
So if that's pretty brought up on the table, what was the vote? Because I wasn't here for
You were here for it.
it. No, I wasn't.
What,
The vote on the universal service fund?
no, this was the fee, the universal service charge,
The 0.5%
to
increase?
go up to 0.5% increase.
Yeah.
So I'm prepared to vote on that.
No, I thought, you went by so fast, you said that
This was
Pearson was
Friday.
outvoted, so I
This
just-
was Friday.
Okay.
We just sort of held it out there
Yeah.
as a question on Friday.
Right. I remember you saying it wasn't a really warm reception, but I may be remembering incorrectly. It was a long.
Yes, for thumbs, and we'll put it to rest.
What-
I'm comfortable with it myself.
All right. What was your proposal? You wanted to raise money somewhere else?
Well, I was looking for some help on that. And I believe my question was, do other people also have concerns with raising the USF fee?
I know,
In
I
which
do,
case,
but I don't remember.
maybe we could,
I don't remember much.
we could sort it out. The one idea I had was something that surfaced in our other revenue discussion, which was a tier on the property transfer tax of high-end properties, with the connection being that houses without access to broadband are seeing, are not seeing their value increase. It is an impact on their value. And you could pretty effortlessly raise the same amount of money on high-end property transfers and not impact everyone in Vermont that pays this fee.
I remember you raising that.
So I don't love that substitution, but I would like some substitution.
I thought for some reason we were thinking about that as something to do with clean water funding, but perhaps.
We were.
Well, we have
Okay.
that challenge ahead.
Yeah.
That was, and that's the one tax we have used for clean water funding.
Well, I don't need to take any more time. If there's 2 of us on here that object to this fee and 5 of you that don't, we don't need to spend another second on it.
Do you mind us reiterating your objection?
Sure, it is a regressive fee that this committee actually has fought off for many years, as I understand it. It's paid by everybody, and if you're earning $12,000 a year, you pay for a telephone, this is gonna hit you. I don't know if they
I
say
object
No,
because
we're on to
it's
the
money
next
being
bill,
spent in the
the
absence of a
draft.
plan.
They can come back
That's
and
my
look, if they,
objection.
we haven't done anything to them, so.
That's not a deal killer on the whole thing.
I personally am still comfortable with this, advancing this, but I also appreciate everybody's
Did your
objection.
committee vote for this? Did this go into natural resources?
No, no.
No, this
Yeah,
came.
we haven't seen this.
No, this came from House.
Yeah, but you might have been thinking,
Right.
yeah, no, we have not seen this, so, again, I'm also concerned that we're gonna run out of options as it relates to clean water, and I'd rather keep the property transfer tax myself sort of separate at this point.
I agree with that. I don't like the property transfer taxes going in so many directions,
Yeah.
that's crazy.
Yeah, and this would be another whole different
But I
direction.
sort of like to keep the debate alive. We can say yes here, then we're done. And we've done this, and, maybe we should have done a better job.
Well, we gotta vote on this guy today,
No, that doesn't, I
Yeah.
know,
so
but
we can.
The debate alive when?
Into
Just
conference.
in a conference. Oh, I mean, I'm always willing to keep the debate alive.
Well, the question is, how do we do it? They're calling us back. Maybe we didn't. No?
No, we're exempted from that.
It's sensible.
There's nothing to roll call.
So it looks like we're
Adjournment?
5-2, take it. Let's go to the next thing.
Okay, we're gonna stick with
Yes,
this?
I'd like to.
All right, if we can
You can always
think of
keep
a
the
way to
conversation
lower
alive.
it, would be one way to keep it alive.
one way to do it is to cut it in half and do half the appropriation.
Then we gotta cut half of the spending.
Right.
That's right.
That's right.
So as of now, we've lost. If we come up with a brilliant solution,
Well, in
we'll
a
come
way,
back to
we've
you.
won now.
Okay.
Yeah, feels like it.
All right, so, and that, how about the way that money is divided? So, 620,000 is going to the high-cost program, which is getting, does high-cost include the lifeline service?
No, the high cost program?
Yeah, it's getting,
No,
No,
that's.
45 is high
No,
okay.
the high cost program is basically for the ILECs, the incumbent local exchange companies, the local phone
Yes.
companies, to build out voice and broadband in high cost areas that are rural and don't have
Okay.
competitive incentive for the.
Right,
And it's basically like a subsidy based on the number of lines that they
They
have
have
to
to do
service.
it.
And the way it works is you get designated as a VETC, a Vermont eligible telecom carrier.
what is,
And then you basically agree to the obligations of providing the
providing
service. So
the
right
service.
now, I think 7 of the ILECs have gotten that designation. Don't know how much money is here, but they share whatever
That money.
money trickles down into this program.
And I think part of that came out of when cell service came in. An awful lot of their lower cost service got taken away, and they were kind of left with the most expensive. We still wanted to get phone service up and maintain it to the folks. All right. And the connectivity initiative, we're gonna go through that. What kind of conditions we put on.
I put that in a separate section.
That's
This
in a
was
separate
just for the
section.
money.
This just
Allocation.
puts the money in.
So my question is, are we nibbling around the edges here, or is this 620,000, 770,000? Is that gonna make a difference? And all in on the VEDA stuff, that's big money, and that could make a difference. Is this just like, are we really getting at the problem? Because if we're not, I don't wanna raise taxes.
Oh, we totally need to have a technical assistance.
Yeah, the technical
I mean,
assistant we
that's
need.
more important to me than just
Technical
about.
assistance.
Yes.
Yeah,
I wasn't
The
talking,
new
I wasn't
position.
talking about, I was talking about the high end and the connectivity fund.
that we don't have to do. We can stick
Sorry, I
with
misunderstood
the,
you, Senator.
maybe there's $1 million in there, maybe there's $50 in there, which is whatever's left over has been going there. And it's got us where we are. We can choose to put more money in there. And I'm just told that there are folks who are very grateful to get that 10-1 or 10-2, because they've had 0-0. Even in areas that have brought fiber to the door, because some houses don't. So we can add extra money. I think that, yeah, once, the ability for local groups, once you get out of the big metropolitan areas, to have the financial and just technical expertise to put these kinds of business plans together that they're gonna need to access VEDA.
You're gonna need that.
So,
You're gonna need that.
are we looking at page 5, the decision points?
Yep.
So, do we all agree up to 120 for the technical assistant specialist?
I do.
Absolutely.
Okay, then it looks like to me there's 2 more.
You've got 1.38, which if you wanna keep it
High cost
alive, we
program.
could strike that and go to conference.
What is that, Madam Chair?
Well,
The
we may not
remaining
have time.
1.38 million, we may not have time.
There's the high cost and the connectivity initiative.
Right, which would mean we could lower the increase. Could we lower it if we do this to 1.25?
Well, who's arguing against this spending?
I guess I was just asking, is the spending gonna get us bang on one of these universal service funds to do that? I mean, I'd almost rather raise it more and get something. It's just sort of like inching
Yeah,
us
yeah.
forward. I don't wanna.
You don't think it's raising enough in a way?
Yeah, we're raising some.
Well, Maria, how much, 620 here is proposed for the high cost program, how much is in there now? Do you have a sense of that? It's something, right? It's not a new program.
So,
But
this
varies
I wrote
by
down.
year.
In fiscal year 17, there was fiscal year 17, there was $475,000. In fiscal year 18, in my writing, it was about $1 million. And my understanding is, and I'm not sure what this, well.
Right. Why is this there?
If I may.
Go ahead.
I can certainly get you some data on what we've paid out. The high cost fund, it has been decreasing this past year. Our fiscal agent determined there was $0 for the connectivity initiative in the high cost program. Last year, $180,000 went to the high cost program, $220,000 to the connectivity initiative. We're seeing the same kind of decrease that we've seen, for instance, on our gross receipts tax. people are spending less on telecom, you know, from year to year, and so we're seeing this decline in leftover money in the USF for these two programs.
So if we add 620, we'll have roughly $1 million in there?
Clay?
Yeah. Yeah.
Can you spend $1 million?
Oh, yeah,
And it can be
yes.
effectively used.
Absolutely, we have about 17,000 locations. On average, we're spending about $1,100 a location. So we routinely get millions of dollars worth of applications for projects, and we can fund what we fund.
That's in the high-cost program or the
That's in the
connect-
connectivity
the
initiative.
connectivity initiative? And the high cost?
The RLEX, the Royle local exchange carriers, have made a promise to have everyone at least 4 megabits per second down, 4
That's
more.
not the question.
Yeah,
If we give you 620,000 for the high-cost program, is it true we'll have about $1 million in there? Do we anticipate that be?
yes, that would be the total.
And people are asking if you'll be able to spend it.
Absolutely.
What do you spend that, I understand that there is a payment that goes to the local carriers because of the high cost of, so there's kind of a reimbursement because they're bearing the high cost of getting the phone lines out to the real boonies up the hollers.
Cash subsidy.
Okay, yeah, so, but is there also a connectivity initiative that's going on with that? Or is that, are we just upping the payment, the subsidy?
If you gave them this additional money to the high cost fund, we would just be upping subsidy. They would have more per line.
All right,
I'm not sure if I understand the question.
okay.
Will we connect more people, or will we give more money to Fairpoint to connect the same amount of people that you're connecting now?
It's not fair, but it's more like Waitsfield Telecom.
Yeah, it's more like, Consolidated actually has projects, and they've spent their high cost money on specific projects, but Waitsfield, for instance, has made a commitment that every address in their service territory will have basic DSL within 5 years of 2017.
What level?
I said, no, please.
It's basic DSL, it can't do more than 10.2 or
So
10.3.
if we put more money into the high-cost program, are we connecting more homes, or are we just giving them a greater subsidy for every home that we're already connecting?
You are likely giving them a greater subsidy. They've already made the commitment.
Okay.
They may have to renege on that commitment.
So does the subsidy connect, does the subsidy mean they have more money to support that commitment to go to
Yes.
75?
Yes, they would have more money to meet the commitment to
Okay.
provide this.
All right, I have a feeling maybe we strike this, which keeps the discussion alive,
Strike
and
the high cost?
the high
Yeah, I
cost.
think we, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
And then,
Let's cut the rate in
No, I
half.
appreciate those questions.
and I don't know that we can cut the, we'll have to get joint fiscal to tell us what we can do with that rate, I think, but we'll adjust the rate.
You could adjust the rate, or that money could go to the connectivity initiative and not the high cost.
Just the rate.
Okay. So let's see if we can get the rate to 1.25 and,
It's a 0.5 increase.
and do what, yeah, and do whatever we need to with the connectivity money there to make it line up. Okay,
So delete the 620,
yeah.
but leave the 760.
60, if we have to take it to 759 to get to 1.25,
Okay,
we can do that,
okay.
okay? All right, make that 1.25, okay.
So then the next two sections. We'll start with section 4, which is on page 6, concerning the speed requirements for the high-cost program, which are in statute set at 4.1. The proposal in the House is to raise those speed requirements to 25.3. So that's the question.
And I
Do you
think-
accept that, or do you want to?
We
So
heard
you said, right,
this morning that DSL they can't do symmetrical rates, but they can do the 25.3. And cable can't do symmetrical. I'm looking at the industry, is that correct? That,
Consolidated.
That's right, you're
I'm not sure.
Consolidated.
I don't believe
Who's
people can,
Comcast?
but.
all right. Where are my notes they sent me?
This is where Blackwood and Plano Street.
Well, this is the fact that we're not engineers, I think it's very tricky. All right.
Madam Chair, sorry.
Yes, go ahead. I'm looking for
Well,
notes.
I'm more comfortable leaving this at 25.3 if we agree to the VITA language being more robust.
Yes.
I think we've heard that that's sort of new systems, which makes more sense.
Yep,
Okay.
So-
I'm with Senator Pearson.
So is that okay?
Yes.
And we don't require the symmetrical here, we're just trying to get stuff out there?
Yep.
All right, and this is for going forward, so for going forward, if you're stringing line,
Not really.
Okay.
So this is a Vita?
all right,
So the Vita, we're gonna,
yes.
So
Okay.
we'll leave the
I'm gonna
20
stop trying, and you guys can stay here till 9 o'clock tonight. I just feel sorry for the staff.
There's a lot of people I feel sorry for.
Depending on where they live, they might be happy.
All right, so we're gonna leave the 25.3 as long as Vita is,
Yep, but before we get to VITA, the connectivity initiative, the question is, and I'm now reading from top of page 8, with this broadband grant program, whether you wanted to accept the 25.3 House proposal there. Yes.
We don't.
I'm trying to find
And I
it.
will,
So-
yes, go
Yeah.
ahead.
Okay, this is the connectivity initiative.
These are grants that we give to telecoms.
Yep.
And how are they, I mean, the high cost is sort of like the one house at the end of 3 miles, so it's very expensive to get there. How do we characterize this, the connectivity? This is,
These are also expensive.
No, I've got the treasurer's waiting, and we've already done that, Bill, and I don't think we touched your stuff, so you're probably safe, but I think we might wanna talk to you at some time,
okay.
about the status of the weatherization funds in the treasurer's office, and maybe we'll amend the bill on the floor, but I don't want you having to hang around, cause we're plowing through broadband.
I understand they're gonna look at it.
Thanks for.
They're gonna look at it, folks. Okay,
Okay.
so you're not totally safe, just from us.
Thanks a lot. All right. So you're wondering, Senator Pearson, whether or not this is good technology, basically, or the
No, I'm just
expensive
trying to
or-
understand who gets this,
Uh-huh.
for one thing.
So this is direct, there may be some overlap, but this is directed at unserved and underserved. The underserved is less than 4.1.
We
Full
did
one
have some
almost.
testimony from Consolidated earlier in the session, talking about the high-cost fund. And they were saying that on a 10-1 basis, cost per address, $3,171, and on a project required by us at 25.3, they could do 74 addresses at a cost per address of $14,358. And that was related to the high cost fund.
Okay, and wasn't that, I think from this morning, we heard right now, to do the 10-1, the copper wire is there. So they just have to hook the copper wire up to a node to get, I think this is what I understood, and I stand to be corrected. If we go to higher, they have to run either new cable or new fiber.
They
And that's
use
the
another
difference.
example in Woodstock on a project recently completed, or thereabouts, the actual project, which was a 10-1. They could serve 53 addresses, of which 13 would qualify for 25.2 at a cost per address of $2,830. But if we did it as required by H.513 with 25.3, they could do 5 rather than 53, 5 at a cost per address of $30,000. And there were a couple of other examples that they gave based on their situation.
Clay, am I correct in what I thought I heard this morning, that the difference in cost is that to go above, much above the 10, they have to run new wires, but they can get the 10 out on the existing phone wires, copper? Okay.
Yes, and to get that higher speed to everyone would require building fiber and remote terminals kind of deeper into the rural areas.
I mean, it's clear that the crappier the technology, the further you can get it, except for then we gotta go back and do it again. And, you know, Sarah McDonald has helped me see it in a way that might surprise some of you, but a consumer probably wants to be able to download video or whatever. But when that region then has a business move in, or somebody move in that wants to work remotely, and they cannot do that from there, then we have really failed. And it's not, you know, the average customer is at some level simple to think of and simple to satisfy. But the economic development potential is hard to overlook if we, you know, if we just sort of shrug and move forward with asymmetric, or, you know, with lousy upload speeds. I mean, that's what it comes down to.
We get two funds. Now, we probably have to change the wording in the connectivity fund, because it talks about least cost or most economically feasible, did I see in there?
Yep.
And that's what they've been doing, is trying to get it out to get the most homes at the least cost, something. We can say from now on, you're going to do 24/3, 24/2, whatever it is. Which part, I don't know if that'll satisfy a business. Depends on the business. But I guess if we,
People that can't do business will move out.
we're not move in.
What do you,
But what I'm trying to figure out is the consequences of this in the connectivity fund. Because you've got whole areas that are wired with copper, and if we just say to do the next project, you have to do fiber, they essentially will have to rewire. They can't just do the copper, the
well,
wire
only if
from
they
there.
want a grant from the state.
Yeah, only if they want a grant from the state, but,
That means they're gonna want a grant from the state.
well, no, they don't have to do it.
Right.
And I think the problem we've seen is that it is not cost effective for a commercial group. So CB, Central Vermont Fiber may be up, but there's sections in the EC Fiber territory, I was told, that have gotten Consolidated 10-1, and that's what they've got, because EC Fiber doesn't go there yet. And so we're making a trade-off that in order to get some people better service, some people will get none. And I guess that's really a policy
And the build-out is
decision.
slower.
The build-out is slower.
How much money is in the connectivity initiative?
The more we build out
Currently?
with low levels of service,
Clay, how much?
then the slower the build out is of the business friendly
Right.
stuff.
It's-
And we're not in this to make a profit, we're in this to make an economic opportunity for our towns.
Okay, but if the whole town is copper wired, and the build-out is for 10 miles out of town, if we require it goes to fiber, then whoever does it has to rewire the entire town to be fiber friendly. It's like upstairs, you just can't put in new
If they're
microphones.
fortunate enough to have the whole town, have them to put fiber to the whole town, then they have customers that will
Well, that
take off.
depends
But
on
if
what
you-
it costs the customers.
If you give the easy stuff to the for-profits, then it's tougher to do the rest with fiber because.
I think we're past those times, Senator.
Pardon?
I think we're past those times. I think the easy stuff has already been picked.
So
I don't think we're talking about easy stuff anymore.
I say the connectivity initiative, we keep it at 25.3 and we continue on to talk about what we're gonna do about the Vita program.
Yeah, and
That's my
enhance those.
proposal.
Okay,
Could you do about what, please?
I said, stick this at 25.3 where it is and look ahead to Vita and see if we wanna change that.
Clay, technical question. Can copper wire do 25.3?
Yes, it can. Would there be a project that would be cost effective to fund at 25.3? Probably not. 25.3 is set by the FCC to exclude DSL. That is why they chose 25.3. It is purely to exclude DSL.
Okay. So we would be excluding,
How much money?
we've got between 17 and 18,000 people.
I'm not sure the exact dollar value or the amount that's in the fund, but every dollar's been obligated. We just announced our last project
Round of
grants. And I would say that we spend a lot on fiber. I mean, we're giving a lot to EC Fiber. We recently gave to Mansfield Fiber and to Kingdom Fiber as well. So we're trying to do fiber when we can. Places that it's available.
But I heard a little bit of a conflict there from what we heard this morning. Clay's mentioned that the intent of the FCC in going to a 25.3 standard was to eliminate DSL, at least the effective bill. But we heard also this morning from Consolidated that 25.3 is something that they can and do with DSL. I don't know if there's a reconciliation of that conflict.
Yeah, I think, what?
The standard was set in 2015, but there is a thing called VDSL, which we actually call fiber to the curb, because that remote terminal is really outside your house.
I'll say you
it's not-
rode fiber up the road and then copper into my house.
Basically just not going into the house with the fiber line. So that's great in urban and suburban areas where there's more density, but for rural areas, whether DSL is actually going to be able to achieve the 140 in a town like Chelsea, I don't think so.
Well, downtown Chelsea's one thing, and then you get up into the hills between Chelsea and Williamstown, and there are areas up there that don't have electricity because they fall between service areas.
So we've
Ah,
got a motion, did we agree on that for the connectivity connectivity initiative.
Well, let's, Consolidated, yes, just tell us your name for the record.
Jeff Austin from Consolidated for the record. And you are correct, Senator, that we can do 25-3 over copper, but as like Purvis mentioned, and we talked about earlier, it's distance sensitive. So you're looking at 25-3 in kind of less than a mile kind of scenario for distance from the electronics, just to give you the kind of value.
Okay, so you'd have to put a node every mile, which is what ups, okay.
The cost, yep, exactly. Yep.
Can we do this as a statement that it is our intention that every house in that preference should be given to
It's a good idea.
25-4, 3,
Well,
yeah, whatever.
Yeah, well, we could just put whatever in there.
Yeah, whatever works.
well, if we're gonna do our intention, I think we should express our intention that
Yeah.
We want the highest level of service
whenever possible.
whenever possible,
whatever,
and that, nothing less than, right now it's 4-1, nothing less, 10-1,
Connectivity initiative, 4-1 for the high cost program,
4-1.
for high cost.
High cost.
We're on connectivity initiative.
I can't
It'd be
imagine
10-1.
4-1.
Well,
I
this
mean,
strike-
does that mean I can send a text?
Pretty much.
Yeah. We might as
You may do
well,
it
we
here.
might as well pass out the microcells at that rate.
And I'll just, can I tell you, maybe just read the criteria for the program? So if you,
Oh, that.
connectivity initiative, if you set it 25-3 or whatever,
Yeah,
then existing law would also apply and say any new services funded in whole or in part by monies from this initiative shall be capable of being continuously upgraded to reflect the best available, most economically feasible service capabilities. And then the department
Okay.
shall give priority to proposals that reflect the lowest cost of providing services to unserved and underserved, and also consider data transfer rates, the price to consumers of services, the cost to consumers of any new construction or equipment, whether the proposal would use the best available technology that is economically feasible, the availability of service of comparable quality and speed, and the objectives of the telecom plan. So those are all the things that, the criteria that would apply now. And so you could adjust the speed and still
still do that,
have
yeah,
those.
okay.
So-
So, but that would allow them, we say that we want the 25, whatever you said here, 25-3, but that in cases that that's just, you could do it, but no one could afford it, so it's a waste of money to run it out there. They could do something less. Think,
Oh,
yes, hi, Peter.
Okay, so we've,
so let me just clarify, did you want, so you wanna just set, leave it at 25-3? Yeah.
I don't understand what that means. You speak. Listening County.
25-3.
I know.
We're going to give preference.
This is,
What?
let them deal with that. That's the treasurer thing.
Oh, all right. I'm not dealing with that. Good. We already did that though. All right.
Okay, so I think you said you leave 25-3 and then you're gonna revisit the loan program is where you might have a
Yes.
higher. speed.
Yes,
higher
lower
scale, yeah,
loan
maybe.
program, we will definitely do
So
that.
the next
Okay.
two
Okay.
sections concern the change in the collection method for prepaid wireless, moving to a point
Oh,
of sale.
and we have to do that because
There's a
the
change of
feds.
federal law, so the
Yeah.
current
It's fine.
method might be preempted. The only issue that came up on page 11, I just wanted to flag for you, when this was discussed in House Ways and Means, Dan Dickerson did a fiscal note, talked with the Department of Taxes. They said there'd be some administrative costs, but they never came up or came back with exactly how much
Mhm.
the cost would be. I think you heard at this committee, the department estimates about $250,000 in one-time startup costs. They're gonna do the registration and collection of the tax on retail providers, and then an ongoing administrative cost of about $90,000. So there's no Okay, just flagging.
I'd say they have to
But we
take
don't have
that
any
up
way
across
around
the
it,
hall.
right?
That's part of their ongoing appropriation,
Okay.
and they can do it.
So all of the one-time appropriations, I think I mentioned this already, have been changed to fiscal year 2020 to reflect the big bill.
Okay.
Just the year. So then on page 12, oh, no, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Please don't get back to that.
I don't know if you were ready to make the final decisions, maybe not yet, I think maybe you said not yet, on the appropriations. So the one-time 955,000, some of it going to Connectivity Initiative, some of it going to the Department of Public Service, grant program, and some for the study. I think
We're making a recommendation to those guys, or are they going to?
That's what's in
Okay.
here.
That's
I didn't
what's
know
in
if you,
here. They
this committee,
appropriated
Right.
the money.
was ready to finalize those provisions.
Where are the, on
Yeah.
what page?
So those are in, some of them are in section 8.
Page.
Page 11.
I'm sorry, page 11.
Page 11.
Section 8. So that's the general fund appropriation of $955,000.
So appropriations, no matter what we do, Madam Chair, they'll take a look at these also?
They will have to get this bill. They
Yeah, 'cause
have
I personally
put-
don't feel equipped to alter these. I'm comfortable with them as they are. Unless
They,
you or somebody else.
Yeah, they'll look at them. The 955, I believe, is in the budget. One-time money, and these would be one-time grants. I know we've asked the department to do that feasibility for broadband and the electric utilities. This is giving them some money to get some assistance in doing that. We've got the Connectivity Initiative, and the Broadband Innovation Grant Program, both of which I think they're all right.
Yeah.
All right?
I agree.
Okay.
So
We
then,
good?
page 12.
Before we get to that,
Yes.
I asked a question back on section 7
Sure.
regarding the prepaid cards. Assuming this is revenue neutral, revenue is being collected another way now, and revenue is
I couldn't understand.
I believe so. I don't know that we heard differently. It's also heard differently. I don't know if they actually got a fiscal, actually, maybe Dan did update the fiscal note. Let me just see if
I didn't see anything in there one way or the other.
What was my next question?
On the
So the
prepaid card,
wireless, by changing the collection method, is it revenue neutral? Will be the same amount of money? And
It's getting the revenue from another source.
yeah.
I assumed as much, but
I think the
wondered.
intent is whether there's any adjustment of collection rates, making sure everybody collects the money, I don't know.
So that was question 1 on that. The second question was, in our new methodology, we would apply the universal service fee. The question is, does the universal service fee have to be the same on every product?
2%?
Does it on every product? Or can you apply, let's say, a different universal service fee to this particular product, since we have to have a different tax regimen anyway, in order to perhaps offset some of the costs?
Oh, so,
Like
that's
calling cards
interesting.
be charged one way, so, is that what you're saying?
Well, the
Yeah.
universal service fee on a prepaid card, could you charge a different amount on a prepaid card, and that would be a way to recoup some of the fees or some of the expense that we would incur by virtue of having to make this change?
That's an interesting idea. I want to think about it some more, but I think if it's directly related to the
cost of
increased regulatory burden, that you might be able to make
Greg's
a
looking
rationale
puzzled,
in
but
that.
Won't that hurt low-income people the most? If they're more likely
if
to.
they buy prepaid cards,
Yeah.
Yeah, that I agree.
yeah,
Possibly.
okay. All right. Moving on.
So, page 12, section 9. This was the $45,000 appropriation of the Think Vermont Innovation Initiative, specifically for the purpose of funding technical assistance grants to Vermont municipalities that are planning broadband projects.
Why do we need this if we just created a technical assistance specialist?
Specialist.
This is money for them to use, right?
This is money that would actually go out,
to.
and if you want to speak with Ted Brady from the ACTV, the testimony, and I don't always like speaking on behalf of, but I think when they were.
You were Ted, what would you say?
No.
Not a fair question.
No, but they were actually, they had some money to allocate for small business growth and development, and apparently there were 3 municipalities that were looking for grants to do broadband, and they had them lined up, and this $45,000 would have been helpful, and they were eager to get it out the door, and that's what I can say about that.
They may need something to get them, you got somebody you can call for technical assistance, but you may need to hire an accountant, you know, I mean, or accounting services, or something else. Commissioner, yes, I can't see you over there behind.
That's why I'm here, man.
I'm the friendly one.
Through attorney for the Department of Public Service, it's essentially what Maria said, there are known applicants now, for projects that are known who are looking for help in getting the planning done. The technical assistant is envisioned to be a standing resource for projects that are likely to come forward, for instance, in advance of getting funding from VITA for their projects. So it's a nominal amount that's designed to help what we know to be a need right now that's very discreet. That's all.
Might some of these be the small cell towns that want to know what they could do with those?
These are the towns that are looking to figure out the solutions, that's correct.
Okay.
For instance.
So this is another whole league than the VITA funds. Okay.
It's a delivery mechanism that already exists that can use some money.
Okay. All right. $45,000, folks,
I'm
is
comfortable with
decimal
that,
best in this bill.
Fine.
Can we agree? Okay.
Let's go.
Okay, so then section 10, bottom of page 12, this is the Broadband Innovation Grant Program that's administered by the Department of Public Service to fund feasibility studies related to broadband deployment in unserved and underserved areas of Vermont.
Is there a dollar amount attached to that?
Yes, that was
No, that's what.
That's the grant award.
right, and the amount of money that's going is
Where is it coming from?
it's part of that $955,000 program.
730.
700.
Okay.
This is the thing that Leslie Nolte said we have backwards, that we should spend the 700 on the connectivity and the 205 on the broadband and innovation grant.
Was it that one, or one, she said what you really needed was the assistance in doing a business plan, because that's what you were going to have to bring to
Well,
VITA.
that's, I think what, well,
So this is to do feasibility studies before people apply for VITA loans, for example? And so this is very different than the $700,000 to the connectivity fund that we were funding through the Universal Service Fund. That's for action items versus this is for planning items.
This is necessary planning before you get a grant, right?
Right.
It could be a grant, it could be a loan.
Okay.
This might help the local 3 towns up, in the middle of nowhere that think they would, Craftsbury, Greensboro have already done this kind of thing. Some other towns aren't in town. And so they might need a grant to hire someone to help them walk through what their options are, what their costs might be.
Yeah.
To
Putting
do
a
the
plan together.
Putting a
Yeah,
plan
yeah.
together. We okay with this? Do we
I'm
wanna-
okay with it, it sounds like it's necessary information to
Do we
have.
wanna do
I know it's
including-
expensive, but.
Including a business plan?
So they have that on page 13.
Okay.
Subdivision
You'll
3.
start off with the videos.
Grantees shall produce an actionable business plan for a
Okay.
potential broadband solution. And then it goes on
So
to
this
say-
would be getting somebody to say, yeah, you can run a line up there.
Yeah, this is technical
Between-
and important information.
Engineering, design, financing, models, construction costs.
Because I don't think we're going to get an
Multiple
engineer
projects, it'll add up
working in the
quickly.
Department of Public Service that'll go out and look at the land and measure it and say, well, this is how you'll have to go through there and
right.
this is what
So
it'll
why,
cost.
I'm sorry, minor point, not looking to revisit the bug dust, but why wouldn't we put the $45,000 into this pot of money?
Yeah, right.
Why are we sending it off to another agency to do the same thing?
They're not doing the same thing, I don't
Okay,
think.
I think the commissioner,
Again, the $45,000 that's being directed at ACCD is for things that ACCD has already got applicants for. So there
This is in the
there are
pipeline.
no projects that are underway that they could benefit from assistance from. So you're quite right, you could put the money elsewhere, but it made sense to try to help those projects move forward if you're so inclined.
or you could put in here and say 45,000 is reserved for present ACCD pipelines or leave them in separate sections.
It's like an extra silo of
Why,
It is.
why, so these are grants, these are planning grants that shall produce an actionable business plan. So these are new, this is sort of teeing up the VDA,
Right.
right?
PETA or Communications Union District.
Right.
So this could be central.
So I think we should look at our speed again here and recognize that this is not going to even the smaller existing telecoms, I don't think. This is not the vision. And I think this is a place where we should be aggressive. Because no one is getting a $60,000 grant to augment their current business plan. This is clearly for sort of a new, yeah. And
Okay.
I don't know if people agree, but.
Project shall include symmetrical,
It's
Yeah,
25.3 under the House proposal. So
Yeah.
that's on page 13, subdivision 1.
capable of upgrade.
Yeah, that's,
What's the right way to talk
that's a
about that?
misnomer.
Symmetrical.
Symmetrical,
We,
25.
once, you can't get to
Just seems
50 up and 50 down from something that was built to be 25.3.
Okay, so what's the right way to say it?
100, or
Be capable of doing 100.
Okay.
It has to be fiber.
Capable of 100.
This is the veto.
This is the innovation grants. We're recognizing that they're leading to the VITA, so it doesn't make sense to let them study the
Thank
low
you.
speed.
Okay.
Okay?
We're not interested in investing $60,000 and getting 10-1.
Right.
Well, and it's 600,000, it's 700,000,
Yeah.
so
Well,
there's kind of.
60,000 per.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay.
Okay.
Thanks for that, guys.
Okay, so capable of 100. So
Alright.
then, section 11 on page 15. This is the department's feasibility study of electric companies offering broadband service.
Good.
That's
we
okay.
Appropriated $50,000. There were two, and I just incorporated in here, two proposed amendments from the Vermont Public Power Supply Authority. They're in bold. I don't know if you wanted to review those or not, but
They came before us and shared these with us.
Yeah.
And can you just tell us quickly what
Yep.
this does?
So all the bolded language is new. So looking at a number of things, including the financial risk to electric companies, and then it just goes on to say, and any differences that may exist between electric companies.
So what might they come back with then?
So I think these are just the criteria to be reviewed, and acknowledging that a municipal or a co-op or an investor-owned, that there might be differences that might influence.
Some may be
feasibility.
allowed to do stuff. This, representatives from each electric company, and then representatives is cut out, and VEPSA is put.
No, so that's just to show that this came from VEPSA, so we're on page 16.
Okay. All right,
So-
then it doesn't have to be grammatical.
So
I
it
was trying to
said,
make a sentence out of it, all
in
right.
collaboration with representatives from each electric company, as
Okay.
opposed to more generally electric company representatives.
Okay.
You picked up the typo here in the word may on page 15. That may exist, it says might exist.
Oh, I did not. Thank you. Thank you.
All right,
You got it, all right.
you like the money
Okay,
for that, right?
Yeah,
50,000, okay.
yeah.
So section 12, this was, you'll see the stricken language at the bottom of 12, and this is to basically allow the electric co-ops to receive federal
Okay.
funds for broadband deployment.
Yep.
There was some question about whether there should be language about cross-subsidization. There is, if you'll notice, in the existing law, just above the stricken language, a pretty clear statement that electric company revenue cannot be used to subsidize unregulated activities, and similarly, any cost of unregulated activities cannot come from the electric ratepayers.
Okay, so
Well,
that's covered.
That's sort of clear.
Okay, so then section 13, this is, some might argue this is just clarifying existing law. I don't, I'm not sure that I would say it's clarifying, but it's making perfectly explicit that municipalities can engage in public-private partnerships
So this is
with an
section F.
ISP. So it's
Section
section 13,
F.
and then it's subsection F on
Okay.
page 19.
So this is just allowing public-private partnerships to develop and
Right,
happen.
and I think we heard
But the-
Consolidated this
Right.
morning say they entered into agreements with towns that wanted X amount of service.
And this could happen anyhow.
Well,
But
that's,
this
that
is-
was not entirely clear, that
Okay, so now
existing
it's
law would
clear.
allow the ISP to actually own and manage, it depends on the terms of their partnership, but this specifically says that they can own, operate, and manage the communications plant. But then there is, page 20, the House added language saying that the partnership shall specify that the private internet service, if they're the owner or the operator, shall guarantee the bond and shall be responsible for the debt service.
Okay,
You're comfortable with
since
that?
they own it, yeah.
Section 14 is just a recommendation from the Secretary of Administration, consultation with others about municipalities, whether they should be allowed to do general obligation bonding for communications plan improvements.
Okay.
What do we need?
Better.
Ding, 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 yeah, what, this is, I'm sorry, missed this.
Right now, you can only use revenue bonds, not the
Okay.
general taxing authority of the town, which, revenue bonds is how you run your water system. If you
This
have
came from the Secretary of Administration.
No, this is from the House, and just
Oh, I
said,
see.
look at, if you wanna get it out there,
Oh, I see.
it would be, you don't have to get a
Got it.
Vita bond loan
Right.
if you can use your
Sort of
general.
goes along
Got
with
it.
our
Thank you.
electric, they're exploring.
Yeah.
business. Fine.
Okay, so now we get to Vita.
So section 15,
Before you go to
beginning.
that, can I go back?
Of course.
I read a little slowly.
No.
I'm going back to section 13.
Yes,
Subparagraph F,
yes.
in which in public-private partnership, you may contract with a private entity to own, operate, or manage a communications plant, finance whole or part pursuant to this chapter. But then it goes on to say that the terms of the partnership shall specify the private internet service provider shall guarantee the bond and be responsible for debt service. Now, I can understand it if the private supplier owned it, but not if they managed it on behalf of the municipality. I'm wondering what the rationale is for saying that, putting such a restrictive.
I just thought if they owned it, so that may just be some wording.
Well, it says here, if they own
Or manage.
Yeah,
or
no.
manage.
So that would put it on the municipality, which is not what we're looking to do.
Well, it said basically that it'd be
So maybe
the
we should say
private
and.
internet service
And.
provider, even if it was managing on behalf of the municipality that owned it, would still be responsible for guaranteeing the bond
I see.
and also responsible for the debt service on it.
So is it
And
and for
I
him?
can't imagine any
Yeah.
private provider
Right.
ever going into an agreement.
Not much of a partnership.
No, I thought it was just if you owned the, because you could walk away and you own the assets.
Exactly, this is not the case the way this
That,
is.
yeah, if you just manage, so should we strike manage?
Or should we just add and instead of or, which is
Own, operate,
No.
and to manage.
and manage?
Or
is that
leave
not-
out
Well, you
manage
could
or
leave
own
Or
and
leave.
manage, because
That's
if you
fine.
manage it
That's fine,
poorly,
yeah, get rid
But
of
you
manage.
wouldn't be,
What if
well, you
you-
manage it poorly, you still would be responsible for debt service
right,
and all the rest.
your town is okay. Commissioner Weiss is here.
If I can suggest that the last sentence, the terms of such a partnership, if you simply insert that the private internet service provider that owns the system shall guarantee. And I think it goes to your point that
Yeah.
they're the ones responsible, but you wanna leave in the manage and operate language, because you wanna make it perfectly clear that municipalities are able to contract for the service of managing their own. So I would just clarify that one sentence.
Would it make sense to somehow say that the debt service is sort of reflected in the ownership structure? I mean,
Well, I
if it
think
is a
that-
50-50, then presumably it doesn't seem fair to make them responsible for 100%. I think what we're trying to avoid is some managing entity that just skips town and then all of a sudden the taxpayers of the municipality are on the hook.
And they don't own the assets.
Right, or they've used their bond obligation but not, so
I think what you want to say is that the owner of the asset, the owner of the facility should be responsible for the bond and for the debt service.
Which paid
And
for
if
the
the owner is
facility.
a
Might be
50-50 partnership.
Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Okay,
But the owner is, I think, who should be on the hook.
it's
for
not just the person that's managing
it.
it.
Correct.
It's, yeah. Can you get that,
Shall
Maria?
specify that the owner.
All right.
Where does this language come from? Before we make this change, do you know where this language comes from?
This was, I'm not sure if this came from the administration or if it came up in energy and technology, but it was modeled after a partnership in Chesterfield, New Hampshire with Consolidated Communications, I believe, where they do own under contract the communications plant. So it was authorizing legislation to make it clear that that type of arrangement is permissible in Vermont.
Okay.
I understand the argument, it's certainly
Right.
sound from a legal perspective, but, you know, given the right to open up municipal contracts to the private sphere, and maybe there was a concern that we want, if there's poor management or something like that, we want that private entity to be on the hook. That's why I asked where it came from. Maybe somebody had a specific purpose in putting it there, but it's not, it was somewhere.
Well, why don't we change it and then we go to conference and find out what they,
Yeah.
what were they thinking?
Yeah, right.
Ah,
Good catch.
Yeah.
okay.
So I think you're okay on section 14.
I gotta find out where we are in the
Now, I
conference.
think we're just starting on the broadband expansion loan program. And it starts on page 21. And it essentially goes all the way to page 26. Because you have all the criteria of the program, which we can review. You have the $540,000 appropriation and loan loss reserves. That's on page 24, section 16. And then you have the changes in moral obligation authority, increasing betas by 6 million. That's section 17, page 24, decreasing BTAs, moral obligation body authority by 6 million, that's section 18. So those are the sections that deal with the broadband expansion loan program. And then the issues, at least that I noted, that have come up, some of them in connection with this. Did you want to increase, right now the maximum loan amount per loan is $1.8 million. I think you heard some testimony about possibly raising that.
We heard it needs to be either at least 2 or at least 4, if I'm remembering. Right, to be meaningful in terms of.
You heard that this morning.
No, we heard that from Irv and from Leslie Nolte.
In order to, that initial cost, if you're looking at underserved areas, at $30,000, yeah, or $20,000 a
We
mile.
wanted to go to 4, let's go to 4.
We'd do fewer projects,
Do
but,
fewer,
but we'd.
But this is the
do-
first year, yeah.
Do them
So
better.
do we want- Yeah.
I'm
I mean, I'm
comfortable
okay.
with that.
We did hear both.
I'd like to go 4.
4, okay, let's do that.
Okay.
Okay. And then you have the speed requirements.
And I'm seeing 100 here.
Okay.
So 100, 100 symmetrical.
Okay. And then there was some conversation about the eligibility requirements, what's considered underserved. Right now, it says that.
Oh, yeah, you let that half the towns, because they couldn't meet all the, Roxbury was the example.
So I don't, there were some numbers thrown about, I'm not sure, but one, I think.
Can you
one-
orient this on the section?
Yep, where it is, so if you look on, let's see, page 22,
Oh, yeah, certified as
right, so subdivision B, which is all the way at the bottom of the page.
What if we just left it and just said certified, because this is all the Department of Public Service, and just kind of gave them,
Say certified by the Department of Public Services in unserved or underserved area.
I mean, I'm sort of tempted, rather than us try to plot some numbers that.
This just seems to me that if we try, I mean, I'm partial to Roxbury, but if we fix Roxbury, we're probably gonna leave
Yeah.
somebody
So leave it
else
to the
out.
discretion of the department, is that what you're saying?
I mean, that, certify, to certify that, the loans are going to areas the department considers to be underserved.
That the service area,
Is
that
there
in
a
the service
section?
area, the majority of towns are either, the majority of people? No, because if you gotta run it through Montpelier, you're gonna, and you probably
Is there
do around
another
here.
place in law where we're already,
Defining
yeah,
the connectivity initiative, the grant program, underserved is less than 4.1. It's greater than unserved, which is dial-up or satellite.
Okay.
Underserved is less than.
and so this was
4.1.
meant to be more generous than, or sort of less stringent in a way.
Where's the house language, Sarah Pearson?
Page bottom of 22.
22 on the bill, not on the, you're on the decision points, you have to go
Yeah,
to
yeah, no, it's
Oh, it's in
on
the-
on
22
the, on
of
the
the
bill
decision.
as passed by the House.
So BC bottom of 22B, certified at least a third of potential customers have access.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
looking at the glass being 2/3 full instead of 1/3 empty there, does that mean that if they don't meet that threshold of mediocrity, that they're banned from getting a loan?
It's the region, right? So you have to prove basically that about a third of the potential customers are currently getting 10-1,
Is that the right way to read that?
Only 10.
Yeah, so in other words,
In order to
I mean,
get
it
these
makes
loans,
sense
to
in that-
you get it 100.
But I mean, how do,
Well, here's
there is a baked-in protection presumably in that if they have decent options, the business plan's not that strong, and Vita, you would think, is going to try to estimate what its likely take rate is. That's what
I mean, I'm thinking too much like an 8th grader now, Chair.
Yes.
we like that.
Does that mean that perhaps the investor-owned cable companies or broadband companies will be looking at a town saying, if we can only get a few more,
But these aren't going to investor-owned companies.
No, they would bar them, I see what he's saying.
if we could only get 12 more houses in this town hooked up to 25.3, then Vita can't come and loan any money to
block
to
MC
do
fiber.
industrial class work.
So how do we avoid this? I see all kinds of heads bobbing.
Ups and downs.
Is
Okay,
that what it means?
so it could, all right, so how do we word this? And again, assuming this is going to conference, so we can fine tune it. But we want to word it so that it's vague enough so we do not automatically disqualify some really good projects whose towns just don't meet the exact head count.
Why don't we put a period after the word Department of Public Service in 3?
Period, and then get rid of
All qualifiers.
strike.
Yep,
It's not very
And we already effectively struck A. because-
yeah.
Well, you're gonna replace
Right.
that?
Yes.
100.
Is that where we do the
Symmetrical.
We're
speeds?
doing 100.
So we'll do
And then strike B and C?
I would, you're asking me, I was talking about this question, you were talking about instead of specifying what qualifies as an unserved and underserved, just say we've already shot, not consult with the Department of Public Service. We're already told they have to prioritize delivering service to the unserved and underserved. So let them talk to them about it, and like you say, go to conference, and
Well, given that it's Monday, she'll take so much comfort in confidence tonight.
and they could take another hour to sort through this stuff.
Well, we're maybe not that far, though. What if we just said, Chuck, tell the Department of Public Service
Can you check with Luke and see if he's got a draft ready?
to certify that, I don't know, I lost it.
But I think Maria can rewrite.
Well, A, we want, because it says the speeds, but basically we want to say that they agree that this is a smart place to do it, and it comports with our telecom plan.
You could do a Center's Rock and suggest to just end it after public service and then put the speed requirement in the previous subsection above that. There's A, B, C, D, E, and just say,
Does
to only
that,
fund
okay,
100
I'm open to that.
symmetrical.
Does that hinge us to unserved and underserved definitions elsewhere?
They're not defined. I think that was the intent, was to kind of define
Yeah,
what they
okay.
meant, but otherwise, the unserved and underserved definitions are specific to the kind of initiative, not
Okay.
general, so it kind of gives discretion, I would argue.
Okay.
I think this one we may hold over to vote first thing in the morning, but if Luke has the weatherization bill drafted, we are going to vote it out this morning.
He's on his way.
He's
And
on
the
his
insurance.
way. All right, so we've got to finish this one.
Yeah, for the night.
All right.
No extension, okay.
Okay.
So does that make sense, what we did?
Yeah, this,
And we got rid of C as well,
we got rid of B and C. All right,
and we're doing A some other, but.
and we'll just move A up
I'm sorry.
top. Okay.
63.
So those were the only decision points that I had noted. I don't know if there are
Okay.
others, but
We're not gonna tell Vita how to do loans, right?
So then pole attachments, you had a
Yes.
couple of proposals that came in that I incorporated in bold. So section 19, page 27.
All right, is this, all right,
So the
that was ours.
first, that subsection A, this is a directive for the PUC to revise its existing pole attachment rule. And the proposed language is in subdivision 1. So the rule shall implement one-touch make-ready policies for pole attachments. And then I believe it was Tomei that proposed the following language. Attachments in the communications space augmented by measures requiring the pole-owning utilities to complete any needed pole replacements and related electrical work in sufficient time to make it reasonably possible for existing attaching entities in the communication space to comply with the make-ready deadlines. The pole-owning utility whose delays prevent timely make-ready work completion by the attaching entities in the communication space shall pay interest to the applicant.
Okay. Greg, did the PUC have some feedback on this one?
Sure, this is Greg Bader with the PUC. So just to give you some background of where we are on the pole attachments rule right now, this is an open rulemaking proceeding. We've had a couple of workshops on that based on a request from the department to do one-touch make-ready for pole attachments. And that's fine. We're studying that issue right now, and the language as it came out of the House basically had pretty broad parameters in it, which we could follow in the existing rule. And then it had us ending up with a final rule by December 1st. This language would, well, I mean, this idea will certainly be discussed during the rulemaking. Those entities, EC Fiber and cable companies, are involved. They are parties to the rulemaking. They can make this case in that rulemaking. This basically mandates a pretty specific outcome for us to come out on, which would be beneficial to those pole attaching entities, of course, not surprisingly. What I would suggest, if you want to keep this language, you could put in something, you could put a period after in the communication space and then say the commission shall also consider measures to require pole-owning utilities to complete any needed pole replacements, and then just would go on to the rest there and eliminate the part that says or pay penalties or interest. If you want to put belt and suspenders on us and have us consider that, that would be fine with us, but mandating the specific outcome is a little bit much.
Kind of means you've wasted a lot of time.
Well,
That's what
That's
this
the point.
bill deals with. They've made contracts that haven't been completed.
No. The public service, not that they've got an open docket, and if we tell them what the conclusion is now, they've spent a lot of time when we could have told them before, but we can. Wouldn't be the first time.
They've had several years to do this, they haven't done it.
Doesn't this have a date on it?
Yeah.
Yes, there is a date.
December 1st is
Of
when
this
they
year.
have to file the final rules with LR and the Secretary of State. I think it's another couple of months after that that they would
Okay.
go through the APA review process.
And that's a date that works for all of you?
yeah, we committed to this date
Okay.
in the House. Now, there's another part of this amendment, which Maria hasn't gotten to, which might change that, but right now,
Okay.
we're okay with it.
Could I just ask, Maria, the testimony was that Maine has adopted something that's been very effective. My memory is that that's the language on 29C, that it says basically if the owner doesn't do it, the attaching entity gets reimbursed for their contractor.
That's my understanding in section 20.
So if we do that, the only effective difference here is whether or not there's interest, right? Compared to Irv's language here. I mean, what we need is these pole attachment attachments and not be drawn out season after season.
True, but there's also the other factors that aren't conveyed in this, and that there are always extenuating circumstances if you have an ice
Blizzard.
storm, if you have a blizzard, if you have, and that's
Well-
not conveyed in here.
But that's, well, I don't think a lot of, so if we got rid of the interest, then all we would be doing is saying, and I think everyone agreed it should be in the communications space. I'm looking at you, Greg, to see if that part is okay. And then
What-
giving
In the
them,
communication
wait.
space of the pole, he's saying.
Which
You
part
have-
do you want to
alright.
be in the communication space?
well, the one-touch make-ready policies for pole attachment in the communications space.
Yes, that's simple pole attachments. There's two
Yes.
types of pole attachments, simple and complex. Simple is in the communication space. The rest of this, the augmented by, that would be a complex pole attachment when you're moving
When
poles
other
or
things have to
splicing
be
wires.
moved, new poles have to be put in.
That's right, it's more complex.
Yeah, it's not just, I gotta get somebody up there to hook up the wire.
It's different than just moving wires up
Right.
and down below the electric space.
And I
You're now
believe there's
moving a pole,
safety and
for example.
union and all kinds of other
There's-
things
yeah,
that
there's-
get
there's-
involved in
It's
that.
more complex.
Okay.
So that language in subdivision A1 is specific to pole replacements, more complex.
I see. And then specifically, what, I'm just trying to understand the interplay with, on page 29, 2C. The make-ready work is not completed within the applicable make-ready completion period. Pole owner shall refund the portion. So that's where there's a hurry up or you're paying for it anyway. And
Well, you're returning the money.
yeah. And so I guess if you have that, what is the point of having the more drawn out language?
I
One seven.
think that's the point. Mr. Recchia, and I know who you are, but introduce yourself for the
I need to
record.
introduce myself. I'm Chris Recchia. I'm the herb tour substitute. I'm actually now the general manager for BC Fiber's implementation team, ValleyNet. Started last Monday, so don't go minding.
Congratulations.
But I offer this because Herb and I have talked about it. I mean, I think the concept, so going to Senator Pierce's point, I think C does do what we need it to, which is enable us to go out and do the work. The refund of the money is important, and I'd ask that maybe you consider timely refunding of the money or some condition there, because I worry that that might take as long as the not getting the work done. But back to the point of where we are with the PUC rules, I think it would, in order to move this along, I could see the committee deciding to recommend to the Public Utility Commission that they consider whether it would be appropriate to have interest or penalties as part of the rulemaking and not direct them to it, because I understand the
I
concern.
think that's,
But what it does is at least put people on notice that that might be something coming if this doesn't get solved.
yeah, okay, so that says we're serious.
Yeah. Thank
The
you. It's nice to
utilities.
see you all.
Okay.
Good to see you.
Does that get us out of here?
Well,
So rewriting to say shall consider basically the language of.
Yeah, and I think we're taking out Irv's suggestion and sticking with C and putting shall consider.
Well, C is, that's an actual statutory amendment to the
Change,
rules.
yes.
So my understanding was in A1 that you're just in the current docket where they're looking at the one-touch make-ready policies, that they would be considering
Okay.
Irv's language here.
Okay.
about The augmented measures.
All right.
For
Fair enough.
replacement.
That's fair enough,
So-
okay.
And there was one other change on page 28, subsection B, and this was a proposal from NECTA. You heard that there is an existing, the commission has a pending rulemaking proceeding right now regarding the rental calculation for pole attachments. This was the cable rate versus telecom rate, the 1 foot, 2 foot, and whether there should be a unified rate. That rulemaking has been going on since 2016. So the proposal, and this is just a little bit reworded to specifically reference that rulemaking, is basically saying that when you file your final proposed rule under this section, which incorporates all the previous subdivisions, it also includes completion of the pending rulemaking on the rate.
Do you see, I understand you had some concerns.
Yeah, so, as I said to Senator Campion, we were fine with doing this rule, the pole attachment rule, by December 1st of this year, but if you roll in another rule, maybe some background is good. So we have this open since 2016, the rate rulemaking.
This has been open for 3 years.
Yes.
The rate.
Not the
not
pole
attachment.
attachment,
That's been over
but-
like 3 months, but,
Okay.
so it's been open for a while. Basically what happened was we got a request from the department to open the rule and try and come up with a,
Sorry to interrupt. I believe Kane petitioned the PUC for that.
okay, so it was, we got a petition to open rulemaking and to come up with a revenue neutral way of solving this 1 foot, 2 foot rule.
Oh, revenue neutral, okay.
Right, and we did not come up with one. So the rule has been languishing for a couple of years. We're really no further down the path of finishing that rulemaking. So to add that rulemaking onto this one would either, well, would necessitate more time. We couldn't do both by December 1st.
Okay,
We could do one or the other,
all right. But I assume the complicating fact is revenue neutral?
That's the problem, yeah, we can't seem to come up with a workable formula in that regard.
Okay. So committee, this was the New England Cable Trade Association, is that NECTA?
Yeah, I mean, I'm comfortable with this language. What you're.
They're saying they
looking to
can't
change,
do it.
even though there's been a document for 3 years.
Rulemaking. But we haven't entered into the formal rulemaking process yet, which takes a while. So what we'd have to do is try and combine this one into the pole attachment rulemaking, which would take us back basically to the beginning of where we were.
Can we tell you to take revenue neutral out of that?
There's no statutory requirement for that, so I don't know. I mean, you could come up with your own solution that would.
Well, this one just kind of got dropped on us. I
Well,
don't
this
feel
was,
that.
what's his, your colleague, Purvis language also on, that he worked with.
He said if you're doing one, you might as well do them all.
It's not quite.
That's not quite, I mean, I don't know what Irv knows about the inner working, staffing, or finances of the PUC.
So you're looking for a date change.
Okay.
Either take this, the combining out,
I don't wanna
or
change,
change
yeah.
or change the date. I mean,
To
give us
what?
another 6 months.
I'd rather give them another 6 months.
Either way, it's fine.
All right. Does that work for you? All right. Okay, so give them another 6 months. And do we, I mean, at this point, I'm assuming that the wages you're paying the guys to go hang the wires on the poles and that things have changed. I don't know how you do something that's revenue neutral 3 and 4 years down the board. So can we say, give it your best shot and,
Well, that's what we're gonna do now. We're gonna
Okay.
try and get as close to revenue neutral as possible. Maybe it's
Okay.
not possible, but we'll get close.
all right. Okay.
So
Are we
on
happy
page
with that?
28, the date of December 1st is now gonna be June 1st, 2020? Is that right?
What? For the rule?
the rule on, this was a late addition on the pole rental, not
They
for the
can't.
pole attachments. And they're saying that they were told to do a rental that was revenue neutral. Well, they haven't been able to find something that was revenue neutral.
It turns out I had to deal with something at an inopportune
So we're giving-
moment, but this has been open for, this will be 3.5 years.
Yes.
Yes.
They're saying they haven't been able to find something that met the criteria.
They said they'd let it languish.
So another 6 months will,
Well, we just gave them another big rule to do. So they're saying they can't get both rules done.
I mean, I'm with you, Senator Pearson. I mean, I'd like to stick to the initial, but,
but this has been identified as like a key roadblock to.
Not the rentals, the pole attachments
Yeah.
have. The rentals get paid,
I
the
don't know about the
rentals,
rentals.
I haven't heard, I mean, they like the rentals, I'm sure some people would like them reduced, and that the cable people would like
You're
to
talking
pay.
about rates now.
Rates, it's the rate you pay to rent it, I have not heard that identified. It's getting the poles prepped and getting your wire up, and I'm sure everybody would like to see their rates reduced and somebody else's raised, but this isn't a major stumbling block.
So the PUC was fine with the language that came from the House and the
Yes.
timeline?
Yep.
But since we're talking about the fact that there's now been 3 connecting entities and the rates are still the same as when there was just one, that's the hiccup?
The problem we have is doing 2 rulemakings at the same time, and getting them done by December 1st. I don't think we can do that.
There's a,
Well, could we complete?
rules making takes 6
I
months.
understand that. Could we close the 3-year-old rule and then have that be an augment or something that, are they already in the same rule?
No, there's 2 separate rulemaking proceedings.
Did they come up the same day?
How long
The
has the
2 rules
rental
come
one
up
been
at the
going
same
on?
time.
I think what they're saying is they don't have the staffing to do the 2 rules.
We
at the
just
same
gave them a
time.
bunch of money. How long have we been doing the rental?
We didn't get the.
We did,
We most definitely did get the fees.
that one would just basically keep us out of deficit spending. It's not really the additional
Yeah.
funds, sorry.
To
I
hire.
wish it was.
Where is the rulemaking proceeding for rental right now? Is it in the APA process?
No, see, that's the thing, it's not in the formal rulemaking process right now, so that's why it will take a while.
So I wonder if it's wise to bifurcate these and get moving on the attachments and let them take their time on. I mean,
you'd rather keep it all the same date.
I'd rather not wait longer.
No, I'm with you.
And-
Yeah.
But if it takes time to figure out the rate thing, let's not hold up this thing.
That's
3
my
years.
thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The rate due
But-
June 1st, 2020, and leave the December 1st for the
Right.
revision of law
Yeah.
That,
I think that makes everybody happy. And it takes care of the initial problem.